You warmly received my previous video on No, I Am Not a Human, and after reading your comments, I realized that I missed a lot of small Easter egg details, which I decided to share with you today. So, this game is set in an apartment where strange guests visit you. You can't go outside anymore because of the abnormal heat wave caused by a solar flare. But what's even worse, strange creatures that look like humans started emerging from underground. The only difference is, once you let them into your home, you'll start noticing your neighbors turning into bags of remains. Your task is to determine if the person at your door is human or not. Should you let them in, or will they devour you later? By the way, this is already the second episode on my channel. I would be very grateful for your support of my small channel if you subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you very much. In the previous episode, I missed a lot of important Easter eggs. First, there's this guy who comes to your door one day. At first glance, nothing special, but he's actually based on a real person who lives in Russia. His name is Prophet Sandboy, and he's kind of a crazy musician. It's no surprise the developers added such guests, since they themselves are from Russia and often use Russian aesthetics and real-life strange Russian characters. As for whether this guy is a monster or not, that's another question, but just to be safe, I'd shoot him. As I mentioned before, this game is very reminiscent of Papers, Please, but it's much scarier because you might accidentally let a monster into your home. Interestingly, when you shoot a suspicious guest in this game, you can quickly tell if you made a mistake or not. If your guest leaves behind a pile of bags, you've unfortunately just killed a kind person who came to you for help to escape the apocalypse outside. But if they leave a bloody mess, then you can be 100% sure you killed a monster that would have soon killed you and your roommates. You did well. Another Easter egg is a strange man who comes to you one day. His stare alone is suspicious, and every time I looked at him I wondered, is he human or a visitor? When I saw him standing alone in one of my rooms, staring at a closet, I immediately knew something was off. This man will stand facing the wall, looking at the wardrobe as if something's happening inside. It's actually an Easter egg from the Blair Witch movie. Kudos to the developers for using pop culture references. If you remember, there was a similar scene where a character was facing a wall, signaling that something terrifying was about to happen. You'd better shoot this guy just to be safe. As I mentioned, this is just a demo version of the upcoming game, but by digging into the demo files, you can find a lot of unused content that will likely appear in the full version. As we know, our goal is to identify monsters disguised as ordinary people, and every day we get news updates on how to identify these creatures. In the game files, there's an image of a person with a double face, suggesting that this might be one way to spot an alien. It's not in the game yet, but this image looks very similar to other visitor traits. As we know, to identify a visitor, we must ensure their face doesn't blur in photos, that they don't have red eyes, overly white fake teeth, or dirt under their nails, as these creatures come from underground. I wonder what the developers planned with this image. Also, a visitor granny was cut from the game. She's in the game files, and she looks terrifying. She could pretend to be a kind old lady, but then you'd start noticing her eyes rolling back in her head, which looks quite scary. In the deleted images, you can see she had various emotions: anger, happiness, and a neutral expression. Interestingly, she was meant to be a monster disguised as a human, which you can confirm by finding this cut image where she's reduced to a wet spot after being shot. As we know, monsters leave behind such remains while humans leave bags. Despite the scary granny being cut, she still appears as an Easter egg in one of the rooms, where you might briefly see her ghost. Another proof that this cut granny was a monster is her distorted face in a photo. Only visitors have such an effect. Distorted visitor faces were also cut but remain in the game files, so maybe they'll return in the full version. News updates tell us that to identify a visitor, we must photograph them, and if the face is distorted, shoot them immediately. However, we never see distorted guest faces, only the text notification at the bottom of the screen. But these photos can be found in the game files. One dumb but funny Easter egg is that when you open doors or windows, you might hear a drifting sound, adding a surprise element to the game's horror, like this guy who came to my house and later took down children and an entire FEMA team that hunts monsters in this game. Scary guy. And the final Easter egg is the words in the menu. The game is called No, I'm Not a Human, but if you sit in the menu for a while, the word human changes to others like war, maniac, killer, and many other unpleasant words. It makes sense because this game is about just that. Let the wrong guest in, and you might find yourself devoured the next day, and this naked madman is just waiting for you to be alone. If it happens, he'll abduct the main character from the apartment, so always let someone into your home. Just make sure it's not a monster disguised as a human. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would greatly appreciate your like and subscription. And yes, I'm eagerly awaiting the full version of this game, and I hope the developers release it soon. This was Puzzle, and I'll see you in the next video.